What's going on, everyone? It's Sean from All Things EV, and this video is all about how I'm concerned that dealerships are digging their own grave. And I want to put this around the context of this Colorado Senate bill that's been working its way through the legislature. If you've been following my channel here the last couple of weeks, you know that this is something that I've been heavily involved with. This is a bill that Rivian has primarily been driving, found sponsors for in the Senate, and it's been working its way through. It's passed the Senate. It had a House committee hearing a couple of days ago on Monday, and now it's going up for final vote in the House of Representatives, and it looks to be like it will pass. With the original context of the bill, it allowed for any manufacturer, traditional or not, who sells EVs to be able to sell direct. Of course, the Colorado Auto Dealer Association threw a huge fit about this, saying that manufacturers that they do business with directly, like Ford, Chrysler, and GM, would put them out of business by putting up shop across the street. This is a little bit inaccurate because they would still be obligated to follow those franchise laws, which requires a 10-mile radius from the next place who sells the same vehicle. Nonetheless, this was something that went through some iterations of amendments, and now, as it stands right now and as it looks to pass, the bill will exclude any manufacturer who has a franchise agreement, which means that companies like Tesla, Rivian, Lucid Motors, Fisker will all be able to set up shop, physical shops, get dealership licenses in Colorado, and sell and serve consumers direct. This, I think, is a really great deal. It's a little bit sad that traditional automotive manufacturers are excluded from this, because I am still of the belief that more competition is better for everyone, even dealers. So if this passes the House, it will get to the governor's desk, and the governor has already said that he's going to sign this bill into law. This is great news. Now, I want to center this video around why I think that dealers could potentially be digging their own grave. Over the last couple of hearings, public hearings, the dealers have been in full force. The Dealers Association has been very vocal about why they think the dealership model is supreme and why they think that this should be the only model that customers interact with. I'm going to share with you some things that dealers and the Dealer Association has shared publicly and or sent to me directly. So the first one is, it is not our aim to block new manufacturers from entering the market. We believe for the sake of consumers and Colorado citizens, it should be done the right way. Well, the way that this is stated implies that the dealership model is the only way that consumers can be served, and this is categorically false. It's incorrect, and more options are always better, regardless of whether it's a dealership or whether it's a manufacturer. It all should be to benefit the consumer. And it's not the dealer's place to decide what a consumer prefers. It's the consumer's decision. If a consumer wants to go the dealer route, fantastic. They should have the option to do that. But if a consumer wants to go the manufacturer route, they should have the option to experience that based on their preferences, based on what they like and want and need. The next thing that I've heard is the franchise model creates competition so consumers can get a great price. Most manufacturers limit the markup to 10% or less on average amongst the fleet. So it is true that dealerships do compete with one another for customers' business, but the only problem that I see with this is that you start with a marked up price and then you work your way down. We've all heard stories about the haggling and the negotiating that goes on at dealerships, and quite frankly, a lot of people really do not enjoy that experience. It's exhausting, it's tiring. It's where we hear the phrase of, well, let me go talk to my manager. And that process does not exist at manufacturers. And the objection that I hear is that there is no haggling and there is no competitive pricing. The pricing is what it is. And that's exactly my point as well. People want to know what the true price is that a company is willing to sell the product for. And the consumer, again, can make that decision whether they think that is a fair price. If they don't, then they'll continue to shop around. The free market will work itself out naturally. The next thing I've heard is that the Tesla model is the model that eliminates competition and allows them to charge as high and as much as they want to consumers. This is categorically false as well. This is not true. This is the market working itself out. If consumers thought that the price for a Tesla, the price for a Rivian was too much, they wouldn't buy it. That's the magic of it. And so it is this old school way of thinking that I hear these dealers talking about that makes me really, really concerned. If it's too expensive, then it would disprove the point that people are buying Teslas like crazy. They've now sold over 1 million vehicles, and they've proved the business model. They've proved that it works in terms of creating a product that consumers desire and aspire to have. If it was overpriced, they wouldn't have been able to sell so many cars as they have. The next thing I've heard is that if manufacturers sell direct to consumers, it would devalue multi-million-dollar investments Colorado dealers have made in their local businesses, causing those local businesses to close and creating huge job losses among the 42,000 Coloradans whose employment is tied to the statewide dealer network. Here's the thing, this is absolutely insanity that someone would assume that dealers are going to go out of business. I thought that the dealer model, the dealer way, was the option that consumers preferred according to the dealers. If dealerships provide such a wonderful service to consumers and consumers are so loyal to this business model, there should be zero concern about dealerships going out of business and losing their hundreds of millions of dollars of investment. Here's the other astonishing thing about this statement. Dealers are asking the state of Colorado to protect or insulate their investments because they're afraid of being put out of business. This, my friends, is not free market. Let me explain to you what free market would really be from the context of a real estate professional. I, as an individual real estate agent, work for a brokerage or am under a brokerage umbrella. We can operate with each other. In fact, agents even compete with each other for business. Now, think about that like a dealership. Real estate agents are also competing with home builders who are building new homes, and consumers can choose to either work with a real estate agent to buy that home, to buy an existing home, or the consumer can go direct to a home builder and buy that house, skipping out the middle man. This idea of free market in the real estate industry exists, and it works really, really well. In fact, there are some consumers who even decide to sell their home for sale by owner. Does it work all the time? Probably not, for a number of reasons I won't get into. Consumers can also list their house on websites like Zillow and Trulia, completely skipping out the real estate agent. All of these options for transacting real estate work, and it gives consumers the option to choose. What we have in the automotive business, when you want to buy a vehicle new, in many, many states, you can only buy that through a dealer. Now, there's some forward-thinking states that do allow all of these options, but in the state of Colorado, the Auto Dealer Association is so big and so powerful that they have lobbied to create laws that keep out these manufacturers from playing on a level playing field with dealers. The next statement I've seen is that communities would lose sales taxes, real estate taxes, community and charitable giving, and much more. Okay, so this completely ignores the fact that these manufacturers like Rivian would be moving into the state of Colorado, buying real estate and generating sales tax and contributing towards the community too. These types of things happen today. It's happening with Tesla. They employ people in Colorado. They generate sales tax. And so this is not an exclusive dealer benefit to the state of Colorado. And as far as contributing towards communities, this is wonderful. And I'm so glad that dealerships are doing this. They're involved with making contributions to nonprofits. And as they've said, sponsoring little league teams. But this is not a case for or why state legislation should eliminate the ability for consumers to buy direct from manufacturers. Next, I've heard that consumers would lose convenience, time, and competitive pricing on vehicles and their service. Manufacturers would locate in high population centers and make consumers drive hundreds of miles to test drive and purchase a new car or get service. Imagine if you lived in Montrose or Grand Junction, which are rural areas, and have to take your vehicle all the way to Denver. This couldn't be more naive of a statement. Businesses will go to where the buyers are at. And the wonderful thing about electric vehicles is that manufacturers know where these cars are registered. They see where these vehicles are driving from a metadata standpoint, and they will build wherever these people are at. In terms of Tesla, who actually has a physical presence here, most of their sales and service centers exist in Denver because that's where most of the customers are at. Now, I've heard pro dealers say that Tesla had tried to set up shop in Aspen and Vail and it just didn't work. And in my opinion, this is okay that manufacturers try smaller markets and fail. This doesn't mean that the business model doesn't work. It just means that they can't make it work for those particular areas. And who's to say that as Tesla's customer base grows in some of these smaller cities that they don't go back? The other thing that's important to know about places like Aspen and Vail is that they're really seasonal. So you have a lot of people in the cities in the wintertime going skiing, and it really slows down in the summertime. The other important thing that I think is overlooked in this statement is that Tesla is rolling out mobile service. And so now they don't necessarily have to have a physical location in all of these places where customers are at. They can actually send the service center rep to the customer at their house in Grand Junction, in Aspen, in Vail. This, in my opinion, is a far more convenient way to serve customers than actually making the customer drive into the service center. This is working. This is something that dealers do not and cannot facilitate right now, or maybe they can, and maybe they're doing it, but I can tell you that a lot of Tesla owners absolutely love the idea of a mobile technician coming to where they're at, whether it's work or home or somewhere else, to take care of their vehicle. Most service needs for electric vehicles can be resolved without the need of an owner going into an actual service center. And the last thing I've seen is 100% of vehicles sold through manufacturer-owned outlets sell at full retail price. Another reason they are so expensive: no competition. This statement is incredibly asinine, incredibly naive, and hugely assumptive to think that electric vehicles are expensive because there's no competition. This completely ignores the state of the electric vehicle market. And if you scale out from what it is today to what it looked like in late 2000s when Tesla was selling the Roadster for $100,000+, that technology has now gotten less expensive over time, much like how we've seen TVs and mobile phones fall in price the more people adopt them. So the technology that's in my 2013 Model S that at retail price was $80,000 is now in a Tesla Model 3 for $40,000. So over the course of 7 years, those prices have fallen and they've gotten more affordable for more people. That will continue to happen the more that people adopt the technology, the more battery cell producers produce batteries, the less expensive it gets. This is economies of scale. This is why it's so important that manufacturers and dealers operate on a level playing field, because the more electric vehicles that are sold, the less expensive they get. And the idea and the notion that electric vehicles being sold by manufacturers are expensive because there's no competition is just so hard to wrap my head around that people actually believe this. So if you support the idea of electric vehicles in more places, consumers having the option to buy EVs from dealerships as well as manufacturers, I want to encourage you to send emails to House of Representatives in the state of Colorado. Their email addresses are in the video description, and I'll even make it easy for you and give you a standard text that you can send in an email to these representatives. They need to hear from consumers that consumers at least want the option to choose their buying experience. If you want to go to the dealership, that's cool. That's not really my style. But if you want the option to choose dealership or manufacturer, this bill is important because if this passes, this will be an archetype for other state legislators to use, which means that if you're in a state that is limited, either partially or wholly, that manufacturers are prevented from getting in and selling direct to consumer in your state, this is going to be the perfect archetype for you to take this and encourage your legislators to do similar. So to wrap this thing up here, I'm incredibly concerned about dealerships' limited perspective of what is best for the consumer. Dealerships believe that what is best for the consumer is the dealership model, and to me, that is a really good sign that they're digging their own grave. My encouragement, my advice to dealerships and dealer associations is to stop creating laws that prevent consumers from buying however they want. As it exists right now, whether a consumer buys from a dealership or a manufacturer, the consumer protections are still there because the manufacturer or the dealership still have to be licensed with the state of Colorado. So this doesn't mean that there's less protection for consumers. It just means that there's more options. So Sean Mitchell, thank you so much for watching this video. I'd love to hear your comments down below. Please, what do you think about this? Do you think this would be good for Colorado? Do you think this would be good for your state and your area? Sound off, and I'll catch everyone on the next video.